Italiano, Italian word of the day for today, Friday, 29 August 2025 is Calamita, which translates to English as magnet. And a magnet is something that attracts or repels something else. And I'm speaking here in the physical sense of the term magnet. And one of the materials most commonly thought of in terms of being magnetic or having magnetic properties is iron. So it's a relatively common thing. It's something that my ancestors, Scandinavians, used certain magnetic materials for, like, pre-compass. So compass is something that points towards, magnetic north. They use a different set of magnetic properties in navigating ships. It wasn't the only one. This is one that I've actually, it's in modern times in science, a lot of the times paired with like electrodynamics. So there's like magnetoelectrodynamics or electromagnetism. However, that is not, it's a pairing, but as in like food pairings, those things can be separated. And so and it was for a long time, back in like the 1800s, early 1800s and before, magnetism separate of electricity was well understood. And I've gone through and I've read some foundational work from back then, and there's one particular experiment I actually even printed out and I actually started like thinking about, and then I started making really, it was a magnetism light experiment by a woman. And and she actually came before Faraday, and she would publish, and then 5 years later Faraday would publish. And so I've actually gone through their publishing records, and I'm like, well, Faraday is great, Michael Faraday, the scientist. There was actually a woman a number of years before him, but something they were both interested in was magnetism separated from the electro part. And magnetism separated from the electro part is really freaking weird. Okay, it's really cool. And it's Tanis taste, and which means it's also really boring. Okay, but there's one experiment that I still have in a bin somewhere. I did not get rid of it, that I would like to replicate or modernize, but actually it's one that might actually be replicatable even with modern stuff. It was that far ahead. Yeah, it's really cool. Go lady, go Mary Somerville. Fairfax, Somerville. She's actually the person for which the term scientist was coined. Yes, a woman. Scottish. She was Scottish. And the areas when I was in graduate school, 2015 to 2019, for geophysics, I had some interest in magnetism. There are areas in which it was studied separated, as in pure magnetism, separated from the electro part, included in physics. Low temperature research. There was some really freaking cool stuff. And then for my taste, okay. And then also high pressure. You could actually separate magnetism out, which for planetary interiors, high pressure is relevant, but that's not necessarily for a lot of things. So yes, there are some magnetism light experiments that I have accidentally conducted where I'll be like walking and something will happen and I'll be like, that's magnetic. I'll look at the sky and I'm like, that's the sun. That's really, I know what that is. And I've had some of those observations a number of times with a number of things. I'm like, I'm not in graduate school anymore. But would I need that actually to study this? Because some of this is like doable in just everyday life. I'm like, well, I could do it. And I was like, no, I need something. So that's one that, like, even if I were to not go to grad school, if I was living with my soulmates, that magnetism is one that I'm like, where there's a will, there's a way. There's also a will or a way for like geology and microscopes, petrography, mineralogy, that kind of stuff. Currently, if I got more base like skills, there might be more on that list. So there we go. In Italiano as calamita, in English as magnet.